So it's been 1 year since I started this channel. This is my third Liga. I'm going into my third Liga MX season handicapping. I would like to say thank you to every subscriber that I have so far. Let's get right into it. I got 3 strategies for you guys today. I've used them personally. They've been doing me okay, especially to kick off the season. But I think if I continue to keep doing these 3 strategies, they're going to work out fine. I think we're going to be just fine. So strategy number 1, do not be afraid to live bet. A perfect example of this working for me was this Friday. You guys can go back, watch some of the videos. Friday, I gave out Tigres money line. I gave out the over. Going into that second half of that game, Tigres was down 1-0. And I tried to look, okay, maybe I can salvage some money because it didn't look like things were going to go my way. And I saw Tigres draw on a double chance, -105. I clicked that thing so quick because I knew Tigres was just not going to. They were knocking on the door anyway in that game. So they were close to scoring. Things were just not working out for them. That thing was just not getting in the back of the net. But I did see that there was a very good chance that they were going to tie that game, at least get on the board. And the end result ended up being Tigres Atlas 1-1. My over didn't hit, my money line didn't hit, but I managed to salvage some money by hitting the double chance live. Atlas was not a team I had confidence in that they were going to hold that score down. Tigres was just the overall better team. Atlas, that was more of a win for Atlas. For Tigres, that was definitely a disappointment, but hey, on the scoreboard, on the actual standings, they managed to salvage a point. So technically it's still a positive result for them. But I think the books, I think El Casino is definitely at its most vulnerable during these live bets. So if you're watching a game, I know some of you have watched the game, you watch the Liga MX game, baseball, football, basketball, whatever the sport is, you can kind of get a sense of direction as to where the game is going. And with Liga MX, man, things can twist and turn right away. Atlas being up 1-0 helped me get a good price on the Tigres draw on the double chance. I still lost some money, at least on this game, because my over didn't hit, my Tigres money line didn't hit, but hitting that live bet helped me salvage a little bit of money. So I can't be mad at it. I had a good feel for it. I was confident in it, and it's something I can't give you guys before the game starts. So I'm going to have to go live or something like that maybe in the future if enough people ask for it. So that's my first advice to you guys. First strategy is don't be afraid to live bet, especially if you're watching it and you got a good feel for it. Go ahead, take a live bet. You might get a better price than you really expected. So don't be afraid to live bet. Heading into strategy number 2. I don't really got a name for it. I don't have anything cool. I don't have anything flashy to name this strategy, but I'm kind of going to have to explain it a little bit. This has worked more than once for me, and it's just looking at the total and some of the handicaps, some of the points, or some of the goals that you get with one of the weaker teams. Usually I've seen this a lot with Juarez, with Mazatlan, with Puebla, Necaxa sometimes. So let me explain how I played this game. This one was an absolute smash spot. When it comes to these guys, all I can say is, look, you're either going to smash it or you're going to smash it, get completely obliterated, or maybe break even. That's just the way that it goes. So we see a very strong Toluca that went up against Juarez. Juarez was a dog, and I know if you guys were betting Toluca, you were scared shitless the whole damn time. I was happy the whole damn time. That game ended up being 3-2. Ended up going perfect. So whenever I see lines like this, it's a little scary, but hey, that risk, I love it. I love that risk. So how I saw this opening up, whenever you see a very, very big favorite, take a careful look at that total. If that total is at 3, that means they're projecting a very high scoring game. So there's a good chance that they're expecting the bad team to get completely obliterated. That didn't exactly happen. Now the score went over, but Juarez didn't get obliterated. I like to play both, especially if I'm getting a goal and a half. That means Toluca has to win by 2 in order for me to lose. That's pretty difficult in itself with a total at 3. Now, if the total's 2.5, ooh, now we're really cooking. That means if you're getting a plus 1.5 and the total's at 2.5, that game is expected to be more of a lower scoring game, and that's where that plus 1.5 really benefits you. Even a plus 1 would benefit you, because if it's a low scoring game, that means that big huge minus 200, minus 250 favorite, they could win 1-0. You get that plus 1, at least you get a push. At least you get your money back. But I'll take the push over sweating and stressing with me putting money on a big favorite and they're barely getting 1-0, barely getting by. Nah, man, that's not worth that minus 200. And at the very least, let's say you take that bad team with a plus 1 or that plus 1.5, hit that over. Hit that over to at least salvage some money, because they're expecting that team to get obliterated. They are. So you might as well hit that over, especially if it's at 2.5. If it's at 2.5 and they're giving you like a plus 1 or a plus 1.5, hit that over, because that team is expected to get obliterated. And we've seen it happen where the favorites are already obliterating the team, like 3-0, 4-1, something like that. And at least you hit your over, you salvage some money. Yeah, you on the bad team, that goal didn't help you much, but at least you're over hit. But there's been times where it has worked out for me. This one was an absolute smash spot. I wasn't even worried at all the whole time. That game ended up being 3-2. That's exactly what I needed. That game could have been 2-2. I would have been fine too. So I played Juarez plus 1.5. They didn't lose by 2 goals. That over hit, no damn sweat. So, man, that was just a great cash in. But there's been other times where it has failed and not so pretty. But this is one spot, this is one type of setup that I do like. I do like playing these, just depending on the team most of the time. But again, this was the beginning of the season. I didn't think Luka was going to come out being red hot. And they weren't, in my opinion, they weren't. They had a draw against Chivas their first game. And then against Juarez, they won 3-2. But, I mean, you're at home. This Juarez team is not the most impressive. And Toluca being a minus 200 favorite, yeah, I'm not playing that. I played something else, and it worked out. Sometimes it won't, but I think more often than not, this type of strategy has worked out for me more than it's failed. So that's strategy number 2. You guys let me know your thoughts on it. How do you guys read lines? I'd love to know. So, or if you think it's dumb, let me know. But again, it's worked out for me so far. I'm gonna keep doing it. But obviously, it all depends. All depends on the teams. All depends on the boards. Just it had to do with a lot of me thinking that Toluca was not impressive, and they weren't. Last, third, final, and I would argue that this is my best strategy so far. Just this is basically more of a long-term plan than it is just a simple tactic strategy. Over the last 3 seasons, if you guys don't know how Liga MX works, they have something called a clausura and an apertura. All that basically means is clausura is about the first 4 to 6 months of the year. Then they take about a month or 2 off, and then they play the second half of the year, which is the apertura. So the first half of 2023. Oh, actually, let me go over how I managed this system. So I basically went over all 17 rounds, all the matches in each round for these past 3 seasons, and how many games went over 2.5. I also included in this system, or in these games, what does 2.5 mean? And how I counted it was basically when both teams score, or at least it was a total blowout win. So if it was either a blowout win or both teams scored and the score was something like 3-2 or 2-1, that's how I counted this over. I didn't include the playoffs in these numbers. I didn't include the playoffs, just the first 17 rounds. So in Clausura 2023, out of all the rounds, basically the over had 86 games go over 2.5. and under was 67 games. Now, if we're getting the odds at about minus 110, minus 130, then we're cooking, just blindly hitting that over. Apertura 2023, the over went 83 against the unders 69 games. 69 games went under, 83 games went over. And again, if we're getting about minus 110, minus 120, minus 130, blindly hitting that over is still making us money. And the more recent one, Clausura 2024, 88 of those games went over, 65 of those games went under. And when it comes to these odds, most of the time we are getting minus 110, minus 120, minus 130. I get it. There's going to be some totals that are at 3, but when those 3s do go over, it's not even a sweat sometimes. And sometimes that over is at plus money. So that's why I didn't really want to include the over 3, because when it does go over 3, most of the time we're probably getting plus money. Now, blindly hitting the over is working still so far, even in this season as I'm talking, which is July 15th, 2024. At the moment, it's still working. Most of these games have been going over. I'm eventually going to try and pinpoint some unders, but I just think the numbers are clear as day right in front of me. It seems like it's a lot harder to hit these unders, and if we're gonna hit those unders, it's even worse when I'm getting negative odds on them. I'd rather take overs for any plus money, or at least at a short minus 105 or something like that. So my long-term strategy for this is I'm gonna keep hitting the over, especially when these teams that are really cooking really get cooking. A perfect example of that was that Monterrey Cruz Azul game. I didn't have a good feeling about that over, but that game went over quite easily. Cruz Azul did it by themselves, which was even more crazy. So, and that one wasn't, I got it. I managed to get it at like minus 102. So, that's the type of thing we love to see. But this is my long-term strategy. You guys are free to follow it if you want to follow it. If you ever see some very sharp unders, please let your guy know, because I would like to make money on some unders, but man, the numbers are just not showing it. So, and again, I've continued to say it. I didn't really look. It wasn't until I did my research, but I knew damn well 2-1 still continues to be such a common score in Liga MX. In more recent years, 3-1. So I can see why these overs are cooking, and it's already showing in the first 2 rounds of the season. So keep betting those overs if you like them as much as I do. That was 3 strategies I have for you guys. Let me know what you think about them. And gonna come on. There's some games on Tuesday, so I'm probably gonna break some of those down a little bit later today. So stick around for that. Let me know what you guys think of these strategies, man. Let's continue to make some money.